Hello, hello. This is Louis Koster. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a medical doctor. This broadcast is from Australia, Mount Isa, Australia. Mount Isa is in Queensland, where I work as a doctor. So fantastic. You can see in the background, this is outside of my home. It is a beautiful day here, and so welcome. So welcome to the Facebook Live. Welcome to the Facebook group Spiritual Awakening. And so let me tell you how I came to the topic of this broadcast. A person in the Facebook group, her name is Angela Lucia, she posed a question, and the question was, "Dear Louis, I have a question for you. What is the strategy to let all the imaginary thoughts come to our mind instead of to control them?" And I must say that is an absolutely amazing question, an absolute great question. And so thank you, Angela, for the gift of your question, since it really, that is in my view, speaks to the heart of what it is to be human, and well, it speaks to the heart of the issues that we are dealing with as human beings on a day-to-day basis. So to speak to your question, so first of all, I know that there's a lot out there regarding how to manage your thoughts, how to control your thoughts, how to create affirmations that may possibly displace your thoughts. And some of it, is fantastic, and you may experience a benefit of that in your life. There is no doubt about it. Now, what I would like to introduce, to suggest is a whole different approach, or to see this from a whole different place, a place of authentic inquiry, and as well a place of like the question, like, what is actually true here? And I know we've all adopted and assumed many of the philosophies of the self-help courses that are out there. And so what I would like to present here is a way of looking at this that might give you a whole different insight, like a whole new insight in your own life, in like what is actually true when all these thoughts arise. Like, like you wake up in the morning and there it is, right? All these thoughts, and some of them are just disjointed, and they speak of you, or they point at the future. That is to say, they speculate on the future that might be, and some of those speculations are not very pleasant, or they are thoughts that point to who you are, but in truth, they point at the idea of who you are. And some of these thoughts are diminishing, condescending, accusatory. They may be evoking shame, or might tell you that you are undeserving. These type of thoughts. I know that you know what I'm talking about. And so the question is, how do you go about them? And I mean, this is so part of who we are. This is, I remember as a teenager, in particular as a teenager, that these were the issues that I was dealing with. Like, you go to school and you meet people, and in a classroom, and then what people say, and then there's a leftover that kind of hangs about, and that then starts to run your life. As in, let's say that we've never learned or been taught how to be with them in such a way that we are not displacing our sense of ourselves, or that our actions are not shaped by our own reactions to these kind of thoughts. And so I could say that and if I look at myself, I probably have lived most of my life in a state of reaction to these type of thoughts. And so you could say, so what do you mean, Louis? Is there another way? Like, how would you deal with them? Is it not reasonable to challenge them, to kind of, shy away from them, and these kind of patterns that we all have developed? Now, so what I'm saying is that that's valid to a certain point, but there is a cost to it. And the cost is that each time you interact with these type of thoughts, you kind of move away from your own true sense of who you are, from the sense of your true nature. So to respond to the question of Angela, like, how do you, like, what is the strategy to let all the imaginary thoughts come to our mind instead of to control them? So I did this experiment, and this experiment was at some point that I took, I must say, the courageous step to allow and let be for the totality of what was arising as my thoughts. And I was curious to see where that would lead me to. And I came to some very, very interesting discoveries. So first off, what I realized is that, oh my God, all these activities that I've had previously in relationship to these thoughts, and like even when these thoughts, when they were thoughts that I found unpleasant, that I found uncomfortable for the reasons that I just mentioned, either thoughts that point to the future, that speculate on the future, or they point to me and have something to say about me, these type of thoughts, I realized that in a moment of arising of these thoughts, they are there. There's nothing that I can do about it. There's nothing that I can undertake to undo the moment that they are there. And it sounds trivial, or it sounds very obvious, but if you think about it, if you watch yourself, there's an amazing insight. I came to see that, like a lot of my, let's call it my counteractive mind activities to these type of thoughts there was an effort to either make them go away, to try to undo them. And then I know in my own life, I had this period of my life that I asked myself the question, why, why do I have all these thoughts? So I went on a search, the search for why, like why am, and then how I phrased it was, why am I the way I am? Not necessarily true that what these type of thoughts are pointing to, that's truly who I am, but that is how I went about it. Like, why is this, or what is the cause of that? And that is not necessarily a very productive journey, since and in the end, like any explanation, doesn't set you free from these type of thoughts or from these kind of arisings. And so to realize that I can't undo, that I just can't undo the moment a thought arises, there's nothing that I can do about it. It's there. And so I thought, wow, that's just amazing. So like any activity that I would undertake, it's completely futile. It has absolutely no impact on the arising or the moment that these types of thoughts arise. And I started to call that the truth of existence. So like in a way you could say that, well, you can't challenge existence, but once it's there, it's there. That actually brings me to this very interesting let's say consideration is that and again, that's out there in the self-help programs, is all kind of activities and approaches and maybe philosophies that are about controlling your mind or controlling your thoughts. You have no control over it. That is the truth. You can't control, in fact, you can't control existence. The moment it's there, it's there. And you're always intervening after the fact. And so this idea of control, I think there is a lot of value to just realize that actually, and to see the truth, that you don't have any control. You do not have any control over what arises. Like what arises, arises. And of course you can get stuck and get lost in the question, so why does it arise? But it's not necessarily, or neither, a line of inquiry that would set you free or would bring you on a pathway towards more freedom to be. And of course, that is the intention of this call, is of this Facebook Live, is how to come to an authentic place of freedom to be in the face of all of that. How to be in touch with your true nature when all of that stuff arises, since it tends to displace, well, our sense of togetherness, our sense of being present. So, and then I saw another aspect of that, is that, and that's very interesting, it's very profound, is that you can't change your reality at the level of your perception. Like the moment that these thoughts arise, it's there. And who's the author of it? I mean, do they come from outside, like an incoming, like you've got nothing to do with it? Is it, you know, often there are people who may, unfortunately, that idea is part of their reality, that they have a thought insertion, but we could, you know, like in the common everyday way of living our lives, it's an intrusion, you could say, at times, because thoughts arise and they create a reality that we do not always necessarily like, you know, like any thought. And I have my examples, and you have, of course, your examples, your version of what I'm talking about. And the inclination is that when that happens, when there is this thought, and there's always, when we are present to a reality, there's always a thought preceding it. So that's why I come back to saying, first, when there is a thought, that creates a type of reality that we do not necessarily like. The inclination is then to interact with that occurring reality with an intent to impact it. And the truth of the matter is that you can't impact what is arising, like that reality, or like any reality that a thought evokes, at the level that you perceive it. I mean, you just can't. And if you do interact, engage with that reality, like, oh, I don't want this, or, oh, like, I do not want that possible future. You know, there's a thought arises that speculates on the future. And then you say to yourself, oh, that's horrible, I don't want that. The more you engage with that which you don't want, that occurring reality, the more it becomes part of your reality, the more it becomes what you might express in life. And so that is so, like, in a sense, you feel trapped. And so I would say that the only way to get beyond this trap is to see what is true here, and to acknowledge first. And so what is true is that, one, you can't change the existence of what is arising, like you can't impact that. And secondly, you can't impact your reality at the level that you perceive it. That's just not possible. And if you do, And if you make that effort, then you get more of it. So, so you could ask, so Louis, so wow, that's a pretty amazing insight. So then how do I go about my reality? You know, where's my freedom? Where am I? Well, these are good questions. And so how to go about that? Like what are the options? And that is what this Facebook Live call is about. I see Angela. Angela, hola, ¿cómo estás? From Colombia. Excellent. Welcome, Angela. I'm here speaking to your question. I just want to thank you, Angela, for your beautiful question. Just amazing. It has opened up this conversation that we are now having, and it's really the gift of your question that allowed for this conversation. So what are the options? If you can't control what arises, if you can't impact the reality that you experience, that is arising at the level that you experience it, so now what? So you could say, so how do I go about this? So and that is how I started out this Facebook Live, is how you go about that, like the strategy. I'm just restarting my iPad. I have a bit of support, like a few pointers in this conversation. So that is what I'm following when I'm looking down on my iPad. And that is, and it's very daring, and it is counterintuitive. That is to allow for the totality of what is arising. Like any thought, a thought that points at you, that is diminishing its character, that might say like anything that is, oops, but that you allow for the totality of that. And if you do that, you'll see that you're not going to die, you're not going to fall apart. And if you do that to the extent that you can for the totality of what is arising, at some point it starts to lose its compelling nature. And it brings you back to a sense of what is true, which is that it is just a thought, and whatever was arising was just a thought that point to the idea of who you are, which has nothing to do with who you really are. But you don't have that perspective when you engage with it. The moment you engage with these type of thoughts, you get more entangled in it. It becomes part of you. You are that, but by your own making, because you are interacting with it, and then you create that reality. And so let's say the trick, or the way, I think is more appropriate to go about that, is to allow for the totality of that which you don't like, of that which is negative, if you want to call it. And when you do, to then find out that you actually, and then you allow yourself to stay with it, at some point you get present to another perspective. You get actually present to the truth of what is. And that is what has you see with clear vision what is true and what is not true. And that is what sets you free from all that stuff. And so this is what I so thank you, Angela. My response to the question of Angela is, and let me repeat her question, is what is the strategy to let all the imaginary thoughts come to our mind instead of to control them? So what happens as a practice when you allow for any thought that arises in your consciousness, when you do not shy away from them, when you are not looking for a solution, when you are not emoting against them. That's the other thing, right? We have a tendency like, oh, there's this thought, that tells me that I'm like, fill in the blank. And then we tend, or some of us, certainly I did, then emote against a thought like that. In the end being that you get only more of it. You are then creating an escalating reality by your own making, by my own making. And so what happens when you do that? Like when you do not do that, and when you allow for the totality of what is arising, what then happens is that you wind up in a place where you realize that in fact you are the author of all of that. You are the creator of all of that. You are the agent of arising. You are the agent in which what you experience arises. You are that which gives rise to your own experience. And the only way to find that out, to come to that understanding like a truth, not like an idea, but to actually realize that, is to allow for the totality of what is arising as a practice. Not like I'm sitting here now, I allow for what's arising, and hey, Louis, where is this new insight? It's not like that. It is a practice. You could say it's practicing being, but it is a practice of allowing for the totality of what is arising as your thoughts, and then with the feelings that come with it. But there are first the thoughts. If you do that, and if you do that consistent enough, at some point, there's the incredible awareness that you are actually the one that is putting them in your own consciousness. Like you are the agent that gives rise to all of that. And once you have that insight, nothing will be the same. Nothing will be the same. You are no longer, I don't want to make it trivial. I mean, nothing will be the same. You realize so one, what you realize is that any interaction, any effort to intervention with these type of thoughts that we all have, that I have, I wake up with it in the morning, or I do something, there is this thought, and some of them are familiar thoughts, to see that all of my interactions with that is completely futile. I mean, if I'm the author of all of that, and I start interacting with what I have created, then it will only strengthen what is arising. And so to be at the level of perception, at the level of perceiving, which is what allowing for the totality of what arises gives you that insight that you are that which gives rise to what is arising in your consciousness. That is, in that moment, your life is no longer the same. It's not. You drop the story of your life. You stop doing things that you did before. You create new habits. And what comes with it, with that place of awareness, which is not permanent. It's not like once you got it, you are in that state forever. That is not the case. It is an ongoing practice that has you land in that place of awareness. And then something happens, and then you're displaced, and then you allow and let be. And then you are back into that place of clarity. What it gives you, among other things, is you know what to do. You know what's next. You know what is right action, rather than you are no longer in a constant reaction to what is arising in your consciousness, which doesn't always have a good outcome because it lacks perspective. A lot of my actions I saw in my life have been lacking perspective because I was just reacting to my thoughts. And so But if you allow and let be, and you are at some point in this place of perspective, you will have a clear notion of what is right action, like what is the right thing to do in this situation or in that situation. And if you want to give that domain where you have a clear sense of who you are, where you know the truth of who you are, it is a realm of non-duality. You're just present. You are that you are, rather than living the idea of who you are. I just see here there is a question from Angela. Hello, Angela. Thank you again for your question. Now, you write a new question here in what I can see on the dashboard of my computer. Her question is, where do my thoughts come from? From my own consciousness? From the divine source? I always wonder. Angela, I really don't know. To be honest, it's where did they come from? I don't know. What I do know about myself is that some of these thoughts that I find annoying, they have been around for a long time, and I see them as a composite of stuff or things that my parents and my teachers or might have said to me when I was at a young age, and I didn't know how to relate to that, like identified myself with some of the things that they said, and then that kind of stuck around and then started to inform and shape my experience of life. That's for that category of thoughts how I see that. What is true though, and I think it's very important to make this distinction. So again, Angela, this is, your question is enormously contributing, is that I think that you can, if you look at yourself, I think that you can discern for yourself that you have this pocket of recurring thoughts. They are of a similar nature. They're not always benevolent. Some of them are diminishing. And then thoughts that point to the future, in fact, speculate on the future. They presume all kind of disasters or like a doomsday scenario. Some of them, not all of them. So these type of thoughts that are not in particularly very helpful, or they do not contribute to a sense of wellness or wholeness or something like that. That's one category of thoughts. And so what I'm saying is that most of the time we are kind of stuck in the paradigm of these thoughts. Now, when you walk this path, this unlikely path, which is totally counterintuitive, that you allow for the totality of what is arising of these type of thoughts that you do not necessarily like, because let's say the gut reaction is to try to get rid of them, because or to shy away from them. But if you do not do that and you allow for the totality of them, and then you land in this place where you have a true sense of who you are, where you're really present to the truth of who you are, in that place, and that's my experience, there's not a lot going on. I'm just present. And then what arises are thoughts. Maybe they're not thoughts. It's more like a sense of like ideas, and I call that inspired consciousness. These are not of the nature of what I just spoke about. They do not have a compelling nature. They are truly, in a sense, because they come from the totality of my being, and they speak to life. And since I am in that place, one with life, they are inspiring thoughts. Or again, I don't know whether they are thoughts, but it's a sense of what is inspiring what would be the next action to take, or something like that. So in that sense, where that is coming from, that's coming from being, from life, from what it is when you are connected to life, when you are one with life. They are beautiful thoughts, they are inspiring thoughts. So I use the word thought. So they are, yeah, they might be divinely inspired, yes, absolutely. So I hope that speaks to your question. Angela, muchísimas gracias. Hello, Grace. Where are you from, Grace? There's a delay between my speaking and then you hearing and then someone writing down something in the Facebook page. So I can't see her answer yet. Okay. So this is what I wanted to share with you on a Sunday morning from Australia. It's now 10:30 in the morning, a beautiful day here. So I hope that something has opened up for you, more of a sense of freedom, that this gets you to think about your life, how you go about dealing with some of the aspects of your life. And I know they are very intimate aspects, since I'm talking at the level of your thoughts, like what's arising in your consciousness. And so inviting you to challenge some of your assumptions and to have the courage to take the bold step. If you see what I said as true in your own experience, take the bold step to see what opens up for you. You know, be curious. When you allow for the totality of all that stuff that arises, that you have a habit developed to counteract, to have strategies to kind of, so that you don't have to be with that, which is understandable. But there is a cost to it. And the cost is that you are constantly having a busy mind, strategizing how you can avoid having that kind of a stuff. And you're probably not present to your own accomplishments in living a life of the idea of who you are, rather than being present to who you are. And that is what that opens up when you allow and let be for the totality of what is arising. This was a great call. Thank you for being there. And for those people who watch this on the replay or wherever you watch this, I wish you the best. Sincerely, I hope that this is opening something new for you, and don't shy away. Don't shy away in sending me a message on this page or in other way that you know that you can reach me. And let me know what has opened up for you, and I'm looking forward to the next Facebook Live in the Facebook group Spiritual Awakening. And there's a link on this page for those who would like to be part of this page or this group, where we are forming a thriving community of people who just want to inquire into, you know, into what's possible in their life beyond the obvious that is given to us as human beings. So thank you, and I'm looking forward to our next Facebook Live. Bye-bye.